talking about these pagan practices and how doing something to the body of the deceased still impacts the deceased, but a little unrelated to the refrigerium. I came across something fascinating because this involves Pope Pius IX, who died in 1878. At his burial funeral, at his burial rites, at his funeral, they placed the coin of Charon on his mouth. Do you know what this is? This is fascinating. They say even the coin for Charon, sometimes turned up in Christian burials of the West and East alike, bringing the custom up to the last rites of Pius IX in 1878. What is this? You've probably seen this in the movies. You know how in pagan concepts, you would have, whenever you die, you got to cross this river, and there's this ferryman, a guy who has a boat, who comes up to the shore, and he's going to take you to the other side. He takes you from the land of the living to the land of the dead. You've seen this in numerous movies, right? This is a pagan concept that came from the Greeks and Romans. And so what the pagans would do is, well, that ferryman, he's not going to take you to the other side for free. You got to pay him, right? So what they would do is they would place some coins and money on your mouth when you died, so that you can bribe the guy. It's a coin for Charon. The Charon is like the guy who takes you over. I guess that's how you pronounce him, but Charon. They place it on your mouth, and then you take that coin when you're dead, and you give it to the ferryman, and he takes you from the land of living to the land of the dead. All right, now obviously this is not only a pagan concept, but this is in many ways incompatible with Christianity, theologically, right? But you could still see a trace of that as recent as Pope Pius IX's burial in 1878. Why? Because, again, Christians, when the empire went from paganism to Christianity, a ton of pagans came into Christianity, as Augustine is saying, and with that they brought a lot of pagan practices, as Augustine was saying and complaining about, but attempting to explain. And this is one of those cases lasting up to 878. Now, some of those practices still last today in the Catholic liturgy, in the Orthodox liturgies, and even non-Catholic and non-Eastern Orthodox liturgies, and also in elsewhere in Christian society. But this one was fascinating because I wasn't even aware of it. But they placed the coin on the Pope's mouth, so that when he gets to the afterlife, he can bribe the ferryman to take him to the other side. Now, this is obviously completely incompatible with Catholic eschatology and in Catholic afterlife, right? It's just not at all Catholic concept, and is contrary to Catholic tradition and Catholic theology. And yet it's still being practiced. It seems safe to surmise that the people in charge of the Pope's burial were Christians, according to anyone's definition. Well, yeah, I mean, these were bishops and cardinals and so on. In charge of the Pope's burial were Christians, according to anyone's definition. Yet in some corner of their picture of the afterlife could be found beliefs at odds with the picture that would be agreed to by the bishops assembled. In other words, you know, if you really pushed them, they would have to say, yeah, look, this tradition is at odds with Christian theology, but we're still keeping this practice. It's yet another example of how some of those things that were incorporated into Christianity, they did originate in paganism. Now, how much of them can be legitimately assimilated into Catholic theology, or broadly speaking Christian theology, versus are some of those incompatible? That's going to vary on who you talk to. You talk to a Protestant, they're going to say a ton of stuff in Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy is pagan and incompatible with Christianity. However, in Catholicism, the response is going to be, actually, no, a lot of these things, yeah, sure, they originated paganism, but, they're compatible and you can assimilate, and there's some good found in paganism, and they can be baptized. And, so it just kind of depends on who you're talking to as far as what can be assimilated, what can't, how you view it. In this particular case, I think everybody can agree this is just completely incompatible with the Christian paradigm of the afterlife. Hey, if you enjoyed that video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button. And also consider supporting me on Patreon, patreon.com/reason and theology.